Voiceover tips, hard limiting. Olga Geiling contacted us at VoiceOver Masterclass asking, should I use the hard limiter before normalizing? She said, I heard recently that you should always use the hard limiter before normalizing to balance out the sound and get rid of any nasty spikes. What do you think about this? And should you set the hard limiter to -6 or -3? I guess this would depend on the input settings that you have in the first place. Well, Olga, I personally would never use a limiter of any kind in the connection chain for the actual recording of voiceover scripts. Hard limiting is fine for live news reporting for broadcasters. This prevents nasty big peaks in the transmission chain. But for recorded voice work, it's best to record completely without any processing at all and have the full dynamic range. For hard sell commercial recordings and normal narrations without peaky character voices, a hard limiter won't make much difference anyway. But let's say you're doing voice acting where there are some soft lines and some very shouty lines you have to bark out. The studio at the client's end will want that full dynamic range for them to work with and mix with sound effects and music with other characters you're interacting with. A limiter will have similar effect as a compressor. They're two sides of the same coin. So for voice acting, reducing the dynamic range will reduce the authenticity of the performance and sound kind of squashed. In fact, too much compression on any acting work can make the script sound like a typical radio commercial really does. You know, punchy, but without any light or shade. Horrible. Compressed Shakespeare. No, darling. So dynamic range, compression and limiting both work on the same principle of reducing an audio signal's dynamic range. Limiting is actually compression with a very high ratio. Compressors reduce signal levels above a set threshold by a ratio, and limiters are designed to set a maximum output level. So they're similar, aren't they? I suggest that you have marks on the input control knob of your USB interface. In my home booth, I have a simple Focusrite Scarlett Solo. For average narrations, the input's at 2 o'clock. For very soft whispery work, it's at 3 o'clock. For dramatic work, well, I determine the loudest part of the script and set the level so nothing distorts. In other words, the peak doesn't go over about -3 dB on the software scale when I'm recording. For me, this is often the input control at 11 o'clock, but it's up to you and your setup. Unless the drama script has incredibly soft, whispery parts in as well as the loud sections, I will just keep the levels the same. If you have decent quality wiring with a low noise amplifier and a low noise USB unit, the soft parts should be completely hiss-free. The bottom line is that you should always have the original recording without any processing in any case, all right? So no compression, no limiting, no noise gate, no equalization. Now, hard limiting can be a quick way to stop distortion in the recording process, but as I say, it's mostly for live radio work. It's going to add processing to flatten the dynamic range. I hope this is useful, and good luck to all our students. Check out our latest courses at voiceovermasterclass.com.